Am I the asshole for financially ruining my husband and his entire family after finding out they'd been hiding his secret child and mistress for over a decade? Hey, before we move on to the video, please subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. Thanks. My name is Alara. For 10 years, I honestly thought I had it all. A beautiful house in a quiet suburban town, a job I genuinely loved teaching high school English, and a husband, Marcus, who seemed like the perfect guy. He was good-looking, sharp, and just incredibly charming. Everyone loved him. He was a successful real estate developer, running a well-known local firm. Marcus and I had a pretty idyllic life. We had our morning coffee routine, talked about our days over dinner, and shared all our plans and dreams. I trusted him completely, believed in him with everything I had. He was always doing thoughtful things, remembering anniversaries, planning special dates, making me feel like the most important person in the world. I truly felt like I'd won the lottery with him. His family was just as wonderful. His parents, Eleanor and Richard, were incredibly welcoming. Eleanor, with her warm smile, treated me like the daughter she never had. Richard, a respected figure in the community, was a good man, always ready with a kind word or a joke. And then there was Sophia, Marcus's younger sister, who quickly became one of my best friends. We'd spend hours together, laughing, sharing secrets, just being goofy. They really made me feel like I was part of their family, and since my own family lived far away, they filled that void for me. They were my everything. Things started getting weird about 2 years ago. Marcus's company landed a huge new development, so he started working longer hours. That made sense, but his excuses for being gone started sounding a little off. Another late night closing a deal, he'd say. Charity gala ran over. Sometimes, emergency client meeting out of state. It felt a bit odd, but I just pushed it down. He was working hard for us, for our future, right? I told myself I was just being overly sensitive. Then there were the phone calls. He'd often step out of the room to take them, or hang up super fast if I walked in. He'd mumble something about confidential client info or a difficult colleague. One evening, I saw him practically fumble his phone, looking totally panicked, when I asked who called. Just a telemarketer, he muttered, shoving it into his pocket. It didn't feel right, but I tried to ignore it. His family didn't help. If I ever casually mentioned Marcus seemed stressed or his schedule was overwhelming, they'd jump in immediately. Eleanor would say, "Oh, Alara, dear, Marcus works so hard. He's doing it all for your security." Richard would nod. "That boy has ambition. Don't you worry your pretty head about it." Sophia would chime in with, "Yeah, Alara, Marcus is a machine. You need to just chill out." Their unified defense always made me feel stupid for even having a tiny thought that something was amiss. I started to internalize their reassurances. My own brain would echo their words. "You're imagining things, Alara. You're being paranoid. He loves you. This is just your anxiety acting up." Eleanor even gently suggested I see a therapist. Just someone to talk to about the stress of managing a home and a career. "Dear," she said, with a sweet smile. "It's good to have an outlet." I actually went, telling the therapist about my irrational fears regarding Marcus's schedule. The therapist was kind, but she focused on coping mechanisms for my stress, never once suggesting there might be a legitimate reason for my feelings. I genuinely believed I was developing trust issues. My friends, our mutual friends, also started acting a little distant. When I tried to talk to them about my low-level unease, they'd often change the subject or give me weird, pitying looks. "Oh, Alara, are you okay?" one friend asked, her eyes full of what looked like concern, but her voice held a subtle awkwardness. I found out later that Eleanor and Richard had been subtly seeding doubts about my mental state among our social circle. "Alara is just going through a tough time," Eleanor would sigh to acquaintances. "She's a bit sensitive, needs a lot of reassurance." They were painting me as fragile and unstable, making it easier for people to dismiss any genuine concerns I might voice. So, I buried my doubts deeper. I convinced myself I was overthinking everything. Marcus, his parents, his sister, they all seemed so sincere, so supportive. I had this perfect life, and I was going to believe in it with all my might. Even though, deep down, a nagging feeling persisted that something was terribly wrong. I just didn't know what it was. It was Marcus's 40th birthday party. Eleanor and Richard had pulled out all the stops at their huge estate. There was a jazz band, twinkling lights, and seemingly everyone we knew was there. I felt so proud, so happy to be his wife, ready to celebrate him. Then she walked in. She was petite, with dark, wavy hair, and she was holding the hand of a little boy, maybe 5 or 6. His light brown hair and chin looked exactly like Marcus's. A cold wave of dread hit me. The music seemed to fade. I saw Marcus's face drain of color, his confident smile gone. He was staring at her. Eleanor, Richard, and Sophia saw her too. Eleanor's face hardened. Richard's twisted into a snarl. Sophia, who was laughing next to me a second ago, froze. The woman walked directly to Marcus, pulling the boy gently. Her voice, though quiet, cut through the quiet murmur of the party. "Hello, Marcus," she said, looking straight at him. "Happy birthday. I believe you know Chloe. And this is Leo." Chloe. The name I'd heard once, dismissed as nothing. But Leo. His eyes, the exact shade of hazel as Marcus's. The way his mouth curved. There was no denying it. He was Marcus's son. A collective gasp went through the guests nearby. The music stopped. Marcus finally stammered, "Chloe, what are you doing here? This isn't right." His eyes darted to me, then back to his parents, pure panic in them. Chloe, surprisingly calm, squared her shoulders. "Right? Marcus, it's been 6 years. Leo deserves to know his father, and Alara deserves the truth." She looked at me directly. "Alara, I'm so sorry. I'm Chloe. Marcus and we've been together for years. Since before you two got married. Leo is his son." The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. My perfect life, my beautiful illusion, exploded. I felt a scream in my throat, but nothing came out. I just stared at Marcus, the man who had lied to me for so long. He couldn't even meet my gaze. Eleanor, her face red with rage, lunged forward. "What is the meaning of this?" she shrieked. "You manipulative hussy. Get out of here." Richard was right behind her, reaching for Chloe. Sophia, tears streaming, started towards me, whispering, "Alara, don't listen to her. She's crazy. She's just trying to cause trouble." But it was too late. Chloe, anticipating them, held up a hand. "I have proof," she said, her voice rising now with a raw edge of her own pain. She pulled a worn photo album from her bag. "Here. Photos. Marcus at Leo's birth. Our trips. Family holidays with them." That was the real gut punch. With trembling hands, she flipped open the album. And there they were. Photos of Marcus, young and smiling, with Chloe. Marcus holding newborn Leo in a hospital gown. Marcus, Chloe, and Leo at Christmas, surrounded by Eleanor and Richard. Sophia, laughing, holding little Leo. My in-laws, my beloved family, standing right there with Chloe and their son, for years, while they were telling me I was crazy. They knew. All of them. They had actively participated in this monstrous lie. My scream finally ripped out of me. "You knew?" I shrieked, not at Marcus, but at Eleanor, Richard, and Sophia. "All of you. You lied to me. You told me I was crazy." Eleanor, completely losing control, spun on me. "What are you doing, Alara? You're making a scene. You're ruining your husband's birthday." Richard grabbed my arm, his grip hard. "Control yourself, Alara. This isn't the time." Sophia, no longer pretending sympathy, glared at me, her eyes full of venom. "You're just jealous, Alara. This isn't even real." But the whispers had already started. Guests were pulling out their phones, murmuring, pointing. The truth was out, not just to me, but to everyone. My humiliation was complete, public, and undeniable. The next few days were a blur of screaming, crying, and horrifying truths. Marcus, cornered and exposed, dropped the charming act. He raged, he blamed me. "You drove me to it, Alara. You were too demanding, too focused on your career, too cold." Chloe understood me. He tried to paint me as the villain, the reason he needed comfort elsewhere, the cause of his unhappiness. He even tried to convince our friends I was unstable and had a long history of paranoia. His family became a solid wall of pure hatred. "She's just a gold digger, Alara," Eleanor sneered when I confronted her about the photos. "Trying to extort money from Marcus. You should be ashamed of yourself for believing her." Richard threatened legal action if I dared to spread slander about their family. Sophia blocked my number, then posted a cryptic message on social media about toxic people seeking attention. Within 24 hours, Marcus had changed the locks on our house. My home, the one I had poured my heart into, was suddenly off limits. My name was on the deed, but Marcus's lawyer, a big shot from a firm connected to his family, simply stated it was a marital asset under dispute, and told me to find somewhere else to stay. I was too shell-shocked to fight. I grabbed a small bag of clothes and checked into a cheap motel. The financial cutoff was brutal. Our joint accounts were emptied. My access to shared credit cards was revoked. Marcus's lawyer made it clear any assets would be heavily contested, and with all the discrediting information about my mental state they had, I'd be lucky to walk away with my teaching pension. My job, which was my passion, became precarious. The school, citing concern over the public scandal, put me on indefinite administrative leave, calling it personal issues impacting professional conduct. I was too broken to argue. My friends, the ones who had listened to his family's lies, vanished. My calls went unanswered, my texts unreturned. The few who did respond offered empty words or subtle accusations. "Alara, are you really okay? Maybe you should just get some rest." Or worse, I heard, "Well, it's just so sad, Alara." But Marcus seemed so stressed lately. I was completely, utterly alone. The people I thought loved me had not only betrayed me, but had actively conspired to ruin me, to make me out to be the crazy one, to erase me from my own life story. I spent weeks in that dismal motel room, the walls closing in on me. I stopped eating. I couldn't sleep. The pain was a living thing, gnawing at me, leaving me hollowed out and thinking about just ending it all. I was financially ruined, isolated from everyone, and emotionally dead. This was rock bottom, a desolate landscape of betrayal where hope seemed to have simply vanished. The air in that motel room was stale. Every breath felt heavy. Days just blurred together, marked only by the weak light coming through the grimy window. I was a ghost, haunting my own life, crushed by Marcus's betrayal and his family's chilling involvement. I didn't know how to even exist in a world where everything I believed was a lie, where the people I loved most had just stabbed me in the back. Then, one rainy afternoon, a text popped up on my old phone. It was from an unknown number. "Alara, it's Chloe. We need to talk. I have something for you." My first reaction was pure rage. Her? The woman who blew up my life? But a weird, desperate curiosity won out. I was so incredibly alone, so out of options, that even this felt like something. I texted back and we agreed to meet at a quiet coffee shop on the edge of town. When I saw her, she looked as bad as I felt, pale, haunted, clearly in pain. She put a thick manila envelope on the table between us. "I know this won't fix anything," she said softly, "but I can't live with them doing this to you. They ruined my life too. Marcus used me just as much as he used you." She laid it all out. Her relationship with Marcus started before I even came into the picture. He told her he was in a difficult marriage and planning to leave me, promising her a future that never came. His family knew about her and Leo. They enabled Marcus to juggle two lives, believing Chloe and Leo were just a temporary indiscretion that could be kept quiet. They even pressured Chloe to stay silent, offering her money for Leo if she disappeared. But now that everything was out, they were cutting her off too, abandoning her and Leo, just like they abandoned me. The envelope was a goldmine of proof. Financial records showing Marcus's hidden accounts and regular payments to Chloe, proof of property he owned under fake names, even screenshots of old messages between Marcus and his parents discussing the arrangement. This wasn't just Marcus's betrayal. It was a deep, systematic family conspiracy. The anger I'd buried finally exploded. I was beyond heartbroken. I was furious. Chloe, in her own broken way, became my first real ally. We were two women who had been used and discarded by the same manipulative man and his twisted family. The road back was brutal. Every step felt heavy with the weight of my shattered past. I started by getting a temporary job at a small independent bookstore across town, far from anyone who knew me. It was a lifeline, a place where I could just exist without pity or judgment. The small paycheck allowed me to rent a tiny, run-down apartment. It was nothing like my old home, but it was mine. I found a new therapist, Dr. Anya Petrova, who Chloe had recommended. She understood gaslighting and abuse. She didn't tell me I was paranoid. She listened, validated everything I said, and patiently helped me untangle the web of lies I'd been living in. She taught me to trust my own instincts again, to recognize the manipulative patterns, and to channel my pain into action. Fueled by Dr. Petrova's guidance and Chloe's damning evidence, I looked for a lawyer. Most lawyers I talked to scoffed at my story, clearly intimidated by the influence of Marcus's family. But then I found Konstantin Volkov. He was sharp, relentless, and known for taking on impossible cases. He saw the sheer audacity of Marcus's deception and his family's involvement, and he was intrigued. Konstantin immediately brought in a forensic accountant. The hidden accounts Chloe told me about were just the tip of the iceberg. Marcus, with his family's help, had systematically moved money, created shell companies, and made investments designed to hide huge amounts of wealth from any potential divorce. The scale of his deception and his family's deep involvement in orchestrating it was sickening. They weren't just covering for him. They were actively protecting a vast financial empire built on lies. I spent countless hours with Konstantin and his team, going through documents, recalling every suspicious incident, every dismissive comment from Eleanor or Richard. Chloe, surprisingly, was a crucial witness. She provided details about how Marcus's parents would coordinate his schedule, arrange for him to be out of town when he was actually with her, and even advised him on how to handle Alara's suspicions. Their complicity wasn't passive. It was an active, manipulative partnership. My own health slowly improved. The constant anxiety began to fade, replaced by a quiet, steely resolve. I started exercising again, eating nourishing food, and reconnected with a few trusted friends who, once they heard the full truth, offered genuine remorse and support. I found comfort in my new community, building a new circle of acquaintances who knew me for who I was now, not for the shattered wife of a wealthy liar. The legal battle that followed was a huge deal, a high-profile case that rocked our town. Konstantin, with his reputation and relentless drive for justice, went for broke. He didn't just sue Marcus for divorce and money. He filed a massive lawsuit for fraud, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and conspiracy to defraud against Marcus, and, crucially, against Eleanor and Richard too. He argued that their active role in the decades-long deception and their deliberate efforts to gaslight and financially ruin me was criminal. The media, sensing a big story, descended. Marcus's family, once respected pillars of the community, saw their carefully crafted image completely collapse. Every revelation, every piece of evidence presented in court, became headline news. The public was glued to the story of the perfect family who had secretly maintained a second life for their golden son, systematically destroying the woman who stood in their way. Chloe testified, her voice clear and strong, detailing the family's involvement, their threats, and their manipulation. It was a raw, devastating account. The forensic accountant laid bare the intricate web of hidden money, exposing Marcus's attempts to hide millions. Old texts and emails, the ones I had dismissed as my own paranoia, were shown in court, proving Eleanor coordinated business trips that were actually Marcus's rendezvous with Chloe, and Richard advised Marcus on how to handle Alara's suspicions. The gaslighting, once a silent weapon, was now publicly exposed for the cruel manipulation it was. Marcus, utterly exposed, broke down on the stand. His charming facade shattered, revealing a pathetic, conniving man. Eleanor and Richard, stripped of their composure, were reduced to shouting denials, their faces red with shame and fury. Sophia, who had been my friend, avoided eye contact, looking utterly pathetic and desperate to save herself. The verdict was a complete triumph. The judge awarded me a huge portion of the marital assets, far more than Marcus had ever intended, thanks to the hidden funds we uncovered. More importantly, Marcus, Eleanor, and Richard were found liable for intentional infliction of emotional distress and conspiracy to defraud. The financial penalties against them were enormous. Marcus's career was over, his reputation in tatters. His family's firm, once a symbol of prestige, was now tainted by scandal, facing boycotts and investigations. Their social standing vanished overnight. They were pariahs. The public shaming was complete. The once respected family name became synonymous with deceit. I received an outpouring of support, messages from strangers, and even apologies from former friends who had finally seen the truth. My vindication was absolute. Just a few weeks after the verdict, my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. "Alara? It's Eleanor." Her voice was thin and reedy, completely lacking its old authority. "We need to talk. Please. This has gone on long enough. We're family. Family." The word tasted like ash in my mouth. "There is no we anymore, Eleanor," I said, my voice steady, no longer showing any old pain, just quiet resolve. "You stopped being my family the moment you helped Marcus build a secret life and then tried to destroy mine. But, Alara, darling, we made mistakes," she pleaded, her voice cracking. "Marcus is ruined. Richard's health is failing. Sophia, she's a wreck. We just want to put this behind us. Forgive us. Please. We can make things right. Her plea was desperate, almost pathetic. But I heard what she was really saying. We are facing ruin. Please stop what you're doing. Please save us. There was no real apology, only self-preservation. I took a deep breath. The sweet scent of honeysuckle from my old, fake life was replaced by the clean, fresh air of my new beginning. You had years to make things right, Eleanor. Years to tell me the truth. Years to spare me this. You chose silence. You chose deceit. You chose to ruin me to protect your son's lie. There is no us to save. I hung up, then blocked her number. I did the same for Richard and Sophia, and even Marcus, who had sent a rambling, self-pitying email with fake apologies and demands. Their pleas were too late, too calculated, too devoid of any real regret. My new life wasn't perfect, but it was real. I continued teaching at a different school, finding joy in my students again. I had new friends, a small but fiercely loyal group, and a new apartment that, while modest, felt like a true home because it was built on honesty and my own hard work. Chloe and I maintained a cautious but respectful relationship. She was raising Leo, and while their situation was complicated, we shared a bond formed in the crucible of betrayal. The old pain still lingered sometimes, like a ghost of my past, but it no longer defined me. The public humiliation had turned into public vindication. The despair had given way to resilience. The innocent, trusting Alara was gone, replaced by a woman who understood the bitter cost of trust, but also the immense power of her own strength. I had lost a perfect life, but I had gained something far more valuable, a real one, built on truth, and entirely on my own terms. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button.